Hi, I'm Nkuley. This is Namhla.
Why?
Okay, so who's gonna start?
You're gonna go first.
Okay, I'm Nkuley.
I'm Namhla. Oh!
Hi, I'm Nkuley.
Hi, I'm Namhla.
And this is season 2 of
Queer Talk.
Don't look at me like that. Don't act straight when you're gay. Let's go.
Hey beautifuls, welcome back to my channel. It's been a couple of minutes since we did this. And as you can see, the budget has changed. Get it before, it was 1 and 2. On a 1 and 2. But then the money came. We said, look at the cow skin. I said, China no. I said, China no. Let's get into this video. I'm Gafungina with the cuteness. The baddest in the school. The baddest in the game. The baddest with the boss. Fit some intro.
And the baddest in his
Tell me you don't watch my YouTube video without telling me you don't watch my YouTube channel. The baddest in the school, the baddest in the game, the baddest in the bar. And this, oh darling, this is season 2 of Queer Talk. Now as you can see, we've joined with a couple of bad bitches.
I'm Namhla, my pronouns are she and her.
Nkuley. My pronouns are they, she.
Buhle-Bontle, Satsha. If you don't know me, then we might have a problem, but my pronouns are she, they.
And my pronouns are the baddest bitch in the motherfucking game. Yeah, done. My pronouns are he, them. And as you can see from the title down below, today we're going to talk about fashion. Fashion as a means of expression. You know, when we talk about Queer Talks, it's about the intricacies and the nuances that make up us as a community, us as individuals, right? And what better people to have on such an episode than two fashion icons?
Let's talk about it. Before I introduce the topic as a whole, I just want to say queerness for me, before my realization, I think I saw it in my expression.
Ooh.
You know, and again, like Kago said, what better way to look at the intricacies of fashion as a queer person
As a means of expression.
than bring
Two bad fashion icons in the building.
fashion icons,
Oh.
fashion iconists.
Oh! Iconics.
Like,
Let's talk about that.
let's talk about
But before we talk about that, let's start here. When did you know you were first queer?
I don't know. It goes a long way. I knew I was queer when I was dry humping girls.
Oh.
That's okay.
Okay. At the age of like,
It wasn't the moment you figured that you wanted
yeah,
to.
At the age
like
of 12.
I actually want to do this. And
Uh-huh.
this is a thing. And I was like, what is wrong with me? But then I actually grew to realize that there's actually nothing wrong with me. I'm just, yeah.
Into dry humping girls.
At
12.
At 12 years old, and that was so crazy.
And how did you express that at 12 years old? Did you express that?
Not fully, because my environment like it never allowed me to, but at some point I had to.
And that's what we want to talk about today. But before we talk about that, when did you know you were first queer?
I was born in the know. I'm joking. I only knew I was queer when my friend told me that what we're doing is gay. Yeah, literally, I was like, oh my god, I'm normal, I'm a girl, what y'all talking about? And then my friend was like, no, literally when you have it, you're like, you're gay. That bitch should have shut the fuck up.
That bitch should have shut the
You
fuck
should have
up.
shut your ass
Because
up.
that opened another wormhole.
Yeah, that's how I knew. I didn't really like come out.
And
I
did
just
you
realized.
ever have to express that?
No.
Buhle, when did you first know you were queer?
I mean, we've had this conversation, but
And if you didn't watch the first season, be embarrassed.
I guess I grew into it. You know, expression-wise, it's always been like this, and there was no different. There was no change. You know, it's just when attraction started, it started towards me. But of course, you know, PK. There was
PK's preacher's kid.
Yeah, precious kid.
yeah.
Why the hell is so
This was the first time I'm hearing about this.
so crazy?
There was praying the gay
There must be
away.
something like
Oh,
that.
you pray the gay away. And you know this other song? Should I play it for you? I'm not. Should I play it for
Well, Naz,
them?
please don't.
Maybe I should play it for them. I want y'all to take a moment with me. Y'all ready? You can pray the gay away.
Where the hell did you find this?
There's no changing DNA. You can pray the gay away.
Let's have this conversation.
Yeah, that's who's
Where
having that
did you
one?
find this song? Why?
So when I first found out I was queer, I tried to pray the gay away.
Okay.
And so,
We saw
when you
it.
pray, and it seems like your prayers are not being answered, then you find a song like this. And it's saying, baby, you come pray the gay away. But that brings me to this. I first found out I was queer, not because I was feminine presenting, right? Or that I had a high-pitched voice, or that I looked like a girl. All of those things are true. But there are still people who have high-pitched voices, feminine faces, and are not queer.
Yeah.
It was in how I dressed. It was in my expression. Clothing for me was always a means of communication.
Yeah.
Even before I knew I was communicating. Because I, as TheeKagoSaul, was wearing pink skinny jeans to the grade 6 theme park, whatever things, you know? And I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. Until... Oh, nigga, you gay! Because what baby told me, Ed Whitey with a pink skinny jeans. I wasn't rich growing up. Now I stumbled on money. But you understand, the Gabara told me. Yeah. And so fashion became the first time I was queer.
Actually, now that you're saying this, you reminded me of a time where you were just, I'd steal my brother's clothes. Like, when he's not around, I just wear his whole wardrobe. And that's when I also knew that actually, and I loved it. I'd sag my pants. I hated skirts because they made me feel uncomfortable. But yeah, when I started stealing my brother's clothes, that's when I knew. I'm sorry, Bettina, if you see.
Oh, he didn't know?
I don't think he knows.
No.
I think we all stole clothes. I personally look better than my sister. You know?
Oh. Oh.
My mom's that way.
Buhle, did you ever have a stage where you stole people's clothes?
I think relating to Namhla's point, unfortunately, I only had sisters.
Oh.
So there was nothing to steal but trust and believe I made a plan.
Oh, definitely.
Like I was sagging like bell bottoms.
You were sagging skirts. Church skirts were being sagged.
And it wasn't, hey, look at me, I'm gay. It's just, I'm comfortable like this, you know. And fashion in that sense did cause some turmoil in the home. But I wasn't even seeing it anyway. Because I think that's the biggest like conversation that's had when parents try to say, oh, you're like this, you're seeing it from someone. Who am I going to see it from?
Exactly.
I only have sisters.
That's why representation matters.
Also, going to like the mall and like getting clothes. Would it be easier for you guys to like just head to the ladies section or like the men's section like without any sense of like awkwardness between you and your parents?
Interesting. Ooh, that's interesting.
That chat.
That's a hot topic.
No dodge.
That's a hot
But
topic.
who was paying?
Where's City?
That is so interesting. So for me, I don't know. I had this conversation with my parents, right? Last year my parents said, before you came out to us, we were always told that you're gay, right? And so we never wanted to give you that title until you came to us.
Yeah.
And so we just thought you were just navigating. Yeah. Boys play with dolls, boys play with lipstick and Barbies.
The denial stage.
It was the denial stage. And I said to them, because you never had that conversation with me, right? I struggled with then being able to do that. And like comfortably walking with my mom and being like, actually, that pink shirt over there is cute. And maybe that skirt would look cute on me, right? And so now I'm in a stage in life where I'm like forcefully putting them in those positions. Hey, I run a thrift store, but I'm only thrifting things that they think are feminine. So that they see me in this. And then we're able to kind of see fashion as my expression. And then also have that conversation. I don't know, what about
you? It opens a door to like that conversation.
And I'm forcing them through that door. Because they never helped me through it when I needed them. You understand? So now we have to force them through it. But that opens up another question. We can then tight your lips. What do you want to say?
I just wouldn't be willing. Like,
I thought it was illegal. I was like, this is illegal. I'm gonna just stay here and crop my I would crop my own parents.
Exactly.
Tops.
Exactly. When I was young, I could get away with it more because you know you're young. Oh, you're a tomboy. But you grow and it's like, okay, when are you gonna become a girl? It's time now. It's time.
Waiting for it.
And I think
TikTok.
Fashion for me, it took a whole lot away because 14, 15, I don't want to buy clothes anymore because you're telling me what to buy, so it's fine. Like I actually don't care. Masiege, it's fine.
This is
actually
actually
very
triggering.
Play because I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh,
trigger warning. You may be triggered.
But yeah, I only started growing into it, I think, around like 18. Before that, I was just
and do you feel like you have found a fashion identity that you're comfortable in, that best represents you? And that's an open conversation to everybody.
I'm still too poor.
That part.
True.
But on the other end, I think at some point I was very into, when I first got my sort of freedom, I was very into fashion. But I realized, just before varsity, yeah. But I realized that, no, I don't care much for fashion, I just care to feel comfortable in what I'm in, you know. And so I think I've been able to calm down in that sense, but also definitely to work my style.
Can't relate, I'm wearing, this is the Rich and Missy unreleased job. This is, oh yeah, Versace times Rich and Missy, like kind of like this
bedazzles on
Of course, Paris Hilton could never.
I didn't say
Real.
diamonds, I said bedazzles.
And I actually realized that I'm into fashion and I have like, I already found my niche. I had to make it work. So when I was in high school, that's how I started thrifting because that's what I could afford. With the money that I get, bro, I'd go to Park Station, MTN, get that 5 Rand, 10 Rand. So that's how I made it work. And since then I've been working on it, like you work on it. As you thrift, you get better, you work on it. And you realize actually, yeah, and by the time they realize that it's too late, you already have it figured out.
I was so shocked that I could dress well.
What shop do you
I really was. Like throughout high school, I just dressed really normally, and then I got here and I went thrifting. And apparently the girl has a good eye, because I was like, oh yeah, well, what I have, that's crazy. But honestly, thrifting was what opened up my expression more than anything, because it's like you have 30 Rand and you have to go to campus today, so you have to make this happen. And you know the 3 Rand stall is very androgynous.
Oh, definitely.
So that's basically how like
yes.
I maneuvered my style. But I never like, I don't know, I never like consciously thought about how I was expressing, like how that was me expressing myself. I think it was more in my head than it was like my clothes.
Do we feel as queer people that people see our clothing before they see us?
I mean, if they do,
Yes and
it will
no.
change into them, hopefully. Those niggas cannot.
Because them niggas cannot.
And also, not all queer people can dress. I have seen.
Oh, definitely.
And
Definitely
she
not.
knows.
But that's why they're not on this episode.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
We
We know
this
who's
from
been
the
tracked.
sex.
Yep.
Who has been trapped?
Cheetos know themselves. So.
Uzi.
Let's not start that
Let's
conversation.
not bring Uzi up.
Back to my question though. I live like this. The first thing I'm hearing when I got here are all those slurs, right? And that's also affected how I navigate my queerness, right? Because all those slurs said to me, right? Faggot.
So much.
Just.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But all those are the terms
They say
out
fact.
there, right? And I'm saying, but what if I was actually pansexual? True. And what if I was just genderqueer, right? Now I've been given this label.
Yeah.
And that goes back to our question. When you live like this, do you get misgendered? Does that affect how you navigate queerness? And how do you feel about it? Let's start this side.
You have to stop by me. Are you
Yes.
sure? I
I'm
have a lot to say.
I
That's
mean,
why you're
nothing
here.
new.
I think yes and no. It's very double-sided.
Okay.
I'm not always conscious of the fact that I look like this. So when I'm looking at you, looking at me, I'm thinking, what are you looking at?
It's normal.
Oh my gosh! Last week actually gave me content for this week.
Okay.
Like, every day of the week was a slur. Like every time I left the house, and sometimes I don't mind being misgendered. I actually don't care about being misgendered in most cases. Like I used to hate being misgendered around my parents because I know I'm gonna go home and it's like, I told you not to dress like that, you know. And that's the only thing that triggers me. But in general, oh well, you know, oh well. The issue is when it becomes a threat to my life. Like, whereas caught with Ndombazana and I'm like, okay, whoa, pipe down.
So that brings me to this question.
Oh my God,
I don't want to
this is
interrupt you.
about clothes.
But it is about clothes. Because this has opened up another conversation.
Yeah.
Do you get triggered when you put on clothes that you feel best represent you, but for a long time you couldn't wear?
I get you with the other
That's
thing.
an open conversation.
Yeah.
When you wear the clothes that don't represent you, in spaces where people want them to represent you. Let's start over here.
I don't right.
Yeah, because obviously, like right now, wearing clothes that I felt would be like, you know, like wearing like let's say a silk dress or some shit. I have very like sorry to be transphobic, but manly shoulders. And like when you wear those clothes, you get reminded that, oh shit, this is probably why I didn't want you to wear them. But it's not even the reason. And it's just like the dysmorphia is really horrible, and it only comes in when it's like, when you're basically when you're hate criming yourself.
When you're hate criming yourself.
Yeah. Because I'm just like, if I'm telling myself that shit, give it up, delicious, you look at men in a wig, I'm the one, you know, being transphobic to myself, and I'm the one that's for that, because what does a man look like? What does a woman look like? Those shits don't exist. But yeah, it does happen.
It's good that Nkuley says this, because I've had an experience where, you know, when you want to wear just a shirt, you just want to you get to the mirror, you're like,
You're crying with t-shirts.
yeah, I have these babies over here, and it's like I want to have my chest out because that's what my energy is saying to me. Like mentally, my chest is out. So now when I get to the mirror and it's like it's a shirt or it's a tank top, and it's like, oh, the babies are still here.
Let's exchange.
We're putting PayPal links
Please
in the description.
Because I really wish we could exchange. Wow.
But we're still here, and we're still talking fashion. And before we move on, I just want to put in a shameless plug. I run a thrift store called the Sanctuary.com. Now, if you're not shopping the Sanctuary, if you're living in purgatory, you're not. But now we're here, and we're talking about things that are a bit, you know, triggering and deep. Conversations about dysmorphia. And I was going to move into that direction. We're thrifters. Everyone here is a thrifter. We all buy clothes, right? And in buying those clothes, we find that some clothes best represent our expression, right? I, as Kago, buy this, I feel like it best represents me. Let's have a conversation about how society's beauty structures also affords me to be, how do I say this? If somebody of a bigger size came and was the same thing I feel comfortable in, why can we accept that I'm comfortable in it, but cannot accept that that person is comfortable in it? And is that a problem that we tend to have in the LGBT, specifically because, you know, of body politics?
I'm still processing.
Let's process the question. And maybe let me try and rephrase it. Different sizes, different shapes are accepted because of beauty standards, right? But this conversation is about how fashion makes you feel comfortable. And as queer people, we acknowledge that we are on a journey of comfortability. But why is it that we find that even people in our own community will be the first, or will be part of the people who will make you feel a type of way about dressing in what makes you comfortable? And what do you have to say about that conversation?
High school would be cancelled right now.
How many of us would be cancelled? That's a question you have to ask yourself.
I think that topic takes us to, well, amongst that, is toxic masculinity. So if I feel like wearing a semi-crop or a crop top, because like, of course, I'm still a woman, and sometimes I just want to be a bad bitch. I mean, I just saw a post Nkuley, and it's like, oh, actually, I feel like that, and I want to do that, and it's like, wow, you gay, that's gay. That's gay.
Big shocker.
You see my post, you're gay, that's gay.
What do you mean?
Like, that's gay. So, what are you trying to say? Because I just chose to express myself like this, and why does that have to be a problem? Or why does that have to then make me seem like less of a stud or less manly? I mean, it even feels bad saying this, but yeah.
It's an intricate conversation.
It's true. And building on what Namhla said, and what you said about hate crime yourself, I think also still as a masculine presenting person, there is not sort of a masculinity that you expect from yourself, but there is a sort of dysmorphia, you know? And like for me, it's like a tightrope, because I think I'm growing back into my femininity because it's no longer compulsory. But
Let's talk about
it's hard.
Now that's a
because
word right there.
even when you do, it's like, oops. I mean, you know, I'm the thickest girl. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Thicker than a what? Than a bowl of oatmeal.
Listen.
Thicker than a what? Than a
Listen.
motherfucking Snicker.
Listen.
Thank you.
You know, and on sometimes it's, some days it's really great, you know. But on other days, I just feel like it takes away from masculinity. You know, it really does pull away from it. And again, that's just hate criming yourself. And it's not easy to look away from it like that, but it's just a personal thing because I'm not looking at any other masculine presenting person. And exactly, I see a masculine presenting person, I see a masculine presenting person. That's what I see, you know. But in myself, I feel like I see and I break it down body part by body part. You understand what I'm saying? Listen. But it's hard, yeah, and it also ties to, like you were saying, dressing like yourself or dressing like someone else doesn't sometimes, you know, trigger you. Like I said, femininity is no longer compulsory for me. So I do it sometimes because I want to, but sometimes it's like, yo, never mind. I can do it in my space.
Let's go back.
I don't know if I can do it in public.
And that's the conversation that comes after this conversation. But you were gonna answer the question.
What was the question anyway?
What was the question?
Fat phobia.
But let's start here.
Trigger warning.
As a femme presenting person, when you tap into masculine expressions of clothing, how do you feel?
I wanted to let you go to the good place to get picked up. So, I'm joking. So I always try to find the balance, like, between my femininity and masculinity, because femme that real is, I guess.
Thanko, I love that name, by the way.
Thank you.
And a lot of try to steal it, you know that. I just steal it.
So
tell me you grew up in Brown without telling me you grew up in Brown.
Fuck off. So if I feel really dysmorphic about being like entirely too feminine, then I'll wear baggy pants and a wig. And then if, I don't know, I am being masculine today, I'm going to wear a crop vest.
And no wig.
Yeah, and no wig. So, but yeah, it's a constant battle. I wish I was, you know, not as conscious of it sometimes. I wish I didn't read as much as I did into like anything. And I was just going about my day and not everything having to be a discourse in my brain, because it is honestly overwhelming sometimes.
But before you say something, I had this conversation with myself a couple of weeks ago. And the conversation was about starting a podcast, right? And the podcast, I was finding names, I was thinking of names, and I'm like, what would I call this podcast? It's a podcast similar to Queer Talks, but it's a podcast. And it's about me and my own navigation. And the title that came to me was Uncomfortably Queer, right? And the title Uncomfortably Queer, I chose it because I feel like as queer people, or as people who are out there and are seen, we need to be honest about how we navigate. You can accept that you're queer. I can accept that I'm queer. We can all accept that we're queer. It doesn't mean that once we leave this space, we're comfortable, right? And so that's a conversation that we have when people look at us. Guti, yes, Namhla feels comfortable wearing what you're wearing. Yes, Kago feels comfortable wearing what I'm wearing. But that's an internal battle that constantly happens. And will there ever be a point where I'm 100% comfortable?
Yes, we'll never know.
And that's the thing. How true is our navigation if it only exists in the spaces that we control?
It's true.
But-
isn't it?
True.
How honest is it?
I'm hearing you.
I don't think it's dishonest.
True. The lack of honesty doesn't make it dishonest. It could just be
Yeah, if I was high, I would.
It could just be
by now.
a blur, you know? But it's important because when people look at us, they see absolutes. Nkuley is truly this person.
Yeah,
Buhle is
so
truly
yourself.
this
Oh my
person.
God, I am wearing a
But
t-shirt.
there's that discomfort. And now we have to speak about that.
More than anything, I think, how do I phrase this question? English is so hard, guys.
English is not the mother tongue. I can
My
listen
thing
to
is, I don't even know my mother tongue just as well.
Oh,
so.
okay.
But I think, if anything, the pressure of remaining true to yourself, and the true to yourself is what people have built up for you, is what would rise this question up. Because when people see me in a wig and they're like, wow, I wish I could be as real as you, and I'm like, girl, this is a hairstyle.
What are you saying? Literally.
I just
switch my wig.
I got another hairstyle. But
Make
to
it
other
feel
people,
like
it's
you.
like literally. But to other people, it's like you're being so true to yourself because this is what I could never do. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but that's now it just becomes other people's projections onto you, and now you have to question yourself if you're being real
It's like
or
the whole effect.
yeah.
Who said I'm affected?
That guy.
I thought you were calling me a faggot.
Nah, Kago was heterosexual.
Oh,
That was so
definitely.
quick.
Kago was doing this for class.
That was-
Oh, please, I'm capitalizing on the game. I'm gay for pay, yo. We'll be back right after this ad break. We're back and we're still bad bitches. But before we move on, there's this song, and it's called Bad Bitch. And I was thinking of making it the title, right? The title theme song. Tell me what you think.
I know I look good, bitch. Sapphire.
Bad bitch. Be my best bad bitch. Head to toe, sis. I'm a total package. Don't nobody want no problems and no I'm a savage. But these niggas up in me living like bitch. What do you think about Bad Bitch?
Bad bitch.
I like the beat.
You like the beat?
It's a really good song.
Buhle, what do you think?
When I'm bad bitch.
Bad
Bad
bitch.
bitch.
Be my rice and cabbage. Well, if you're
What
vibing,
was the lyrics?
I'd love to give you all a life before. I'm a
Yeah.
bad bitch. Times with something now.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Motsoagae. Minaj. Let's about Motsoagae. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm the queer icon. Give up what's like getting put your pride flags up. Get one of Lizozi, get some make yourself. Get one of the jealasa. Mara when sala uba. Nisa. Sibara horata. Happy when no baby. Which one I live Brenda never oye fasi. Let me tell you about me. I'm a baddie, you can see, but I'm never on my knees. I follow the 1, 2, 3. Be the baddest in the school and the baddest in the game. And you already know, be the baddest in your day. Head to toe, sis, I'm the total cat. Yo, we got Keabetswe behind this camera. You wanna give them a verse as well?
No. I'm gonna have to invoice you for that. Should I?
Ooh, sure. I thought 500.
Okay, play the beat. You got 100.
So we're back. And as you've been joining us and listening, you know that the conversation is deep. The conversation could be even deeper. The space for Queer Talks is for you to have those conversations in your spaces. You take this video, you play it, you project it, you watch it. You know how you watch Drag Race? Have an episode with your friends for Queer Talks. Come together, let's share it, so that you unpack, right? But
Welcome to this section, which is called Q&A.
now, we asked a few people on Instagram to ask us a few questions. And those who were not confident enough to ask asked us anonymously. The first question from Anonymous says, please talk about the fact that schools need to be educating students on the fact that it's okay to be questioning their sexuality and remove the stigma behind that. And I think that's the perfect question for this topic, right? Because education can also start with dress code. People in girls' schools are told, you can't wear pants in winter.
Oh, now y'all watched this
That's
education?
how
That was crazy.
We did what?
Sex education.
I haven't watched the next season.
I'm sorry. No
So no
spoilers.
spoilers, please. But let's talk about that. Where does educating younger people on the fact that it's okay to be, is it even androgynous, to just live, right, in whatever makes you comfortable? Where does that education start?
Let's
By not
start
teaching
here.
them hate.
Yeah, definitely. But let's start here. Can teachers just stop this thing where if a kid's gonna come to you and be like, ma'am, they said me, or like, ma'am, they said. Can you please stop that thing that who is they?
Kimangvi.
Kimangde. Stop it. Like, okay, just take
Also,
it.
boys being boys is not a real reason for you to let kids be bullied. Like, that's not right. That gotta stop.
And that's a bigger conversation. I want y'all to have that conversation in the comments down below. Boys will be boys. The toxicity in that, the violence in that.
That's how people get abused. That's how gay relationships literally die out and people end up under.
Buhle, where does the education start?
I want to say at home, but it's unrealistic, of course, for some. School plays a part too, and I'm not saying get in class and teach me that there's gays and lesbians. You know, I just
I'm definitely
feel
saying
like
that. But I hear you.
I'm
It's a journey,
It is.
and we're far from that conversation.
exactly. I just feel like also just as a teacher, you know, there's those teachers in life who were just, I don't want to say accepting, but they just made it. Yeah. So just make it a point as a teacher to be that person, even for those who are heterosexual. So it's clear that there's actually nothing peculiar about these other kids.
Can I ask a question?
That's the question.
When you guys were doing like matric, were you guys also reading like, because I think a lot of my friends, if not all of them, read like a queer or trans book in like grade 12. Did you guys do that?
No.
For English
I
or
didn't.
okay, cool.
English.
No, not even English. It was actually I read a Zulu one. My friends read like Betty ones.
For like
Think in
Yeah,
Zulu, I
in
think I
Zulu.
did, yeah.
Did you? Yeah, right? That was so crazy.
Yeah.
Those were the worst moments of my life. Wow.
Because like all eyes
Like,
on you.
yeah, it was supposed to be a moment of teaching, but instead,
But it's like actually.
I had this teacher who kept, as she kept reading, she kept on being like, "Do not do this," and I was like, "Girl, how would I catch anything
what?
if you keep on saying?" And she'd make me the example every single time. She's like, "I want to Abafana no," and I'm like,
Guys?
"You need
Yeah,
to
no,
blend."
Zulu teachers are wild. Like
That bitch needed to blend her makeup.
my Zulu teacher in like grade 8, 9 used to call me the devil, and then like,
Yeah, but
That's crazy.
okay.
I was, part of the Illuminati at my school, so
Is you Rihanna?
Wow.
I've never seen you and Rihanna in the same room together.
yeah, exactly.
That's why.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, no, she has my number. She
She checks up on you sometimes. But we're speaking
Yeah.
education, right? And we're speaking education and fashion. Really.
Yeah.
The conversation is, how do schools teach students? That's what we spoke about. That's what the question was. Do you feel like Nkuley saying, they were used as an example. Do you feel like in your expression, even as a student, you're constantly having to teach people about your navigation as a queer person, your existence as a queer person? Are you forced into being a teacher because you're visibly queer?
Definitely. For me to be comfortable in the space, I had to. I had to teach
That's
people
so
that
cool.
this is how you treat me and this is how
You
I want to be
refer to
treated
me.
and this is how you refer to me. Because I could not have a space like that for as long as I did in school if I wasn't comfortable or people misinterpreted me. I just let it be. There was just going to bottle up too much.
Do you get tired of being a teacher?
I stopped discoursing. I decided to be high. But I really did get tired of being a teacher. It was a lot. It was a lot to teach people things over and over again also. It seemed very disrespectful. It seemed like a waste of time. It seemed like you could Google this, honestly. Like there were some things that I just did not want to answer. Google was really there. And obviously in some spaces and some instances, and also I'm so tired of feeling sorry for black men, but like, in some instances, obviously some people do not get the same type of accessibility as other people. So me going to someone and being like, okay, cool, that is kind of insensitive because not everyone, and this is for all of you Twitter motherfuckers, there is a world outside of Twitter. Only 5 million South Africans use Twitter. So there are so many other people outside of us. Like, yeah, so anyway, there's a bigger world outside of the internet. That's basically what I'm saying. And not everyone knows everything, so yeah.
Definitely, because no matter how much you might teach in one space, you're always new to another space. You know, there's always a space that I must get to and start from scratch. And if you're in spaces where you've done all that work, and I get to a new space, I'm like, actually,
I'm doing this again.
never mind. I'm actually not doing this again. Like, if you don't understand, if you don't, it's honestly your problem. And
But it's
I think that's
interesting to me because you have kind of found your comfort, and we're speaking fashions. I'm gonna bring it back to fashion all the time. You found your comfort in the spaces you know, and so you don't have to teach anymore in those spaces that you know or in those spaces that you've already taught. When you walk into new spaces, do you consciously then alter how you navigate clothes-wise? So I know if I were to leave here and go into a new space, I would never wear this because I don't know how safe that space is. And that's a conversation that also needs to be happened. It needs to be had, you know? It's interesting to think about. And you all should think about it. But Buhle is going to ask us the next question and then we're going to wrap up.
Why are you gay?
Ooh, that's interesting.
This one. So on a date between two queer beings of the same gender, how would you advise the navigation of who's paid without getting into heteronormative traditional acts? I love this. I love this.
Y'all niggas are broke. Why y'all gotta ask? Somebody preach. I want us to
This is
fight.
my favorite
I
question.
want us to fight for the bill.
Let's talk about that. Who's paid?
The real nigga.
Let's have that conversation.
Initiated the date.
Thank you.
Yeah, literally, that's it. That's it.
Exactly.
If you took me there, then why am I here splitting this with you? That's kind of ghetto.
And it's kind of heteronormative. As queer people, we should not expect that masculine presenting people are the ones to pay. The conversation here is.
I mean, your ass had
The
it.
one
I'm
with us.
broke. That's one thing about
Okay, don't say that.
I mean,
When
I'm
do
also
this
still
next
trying to
forever.
get it together.
I won't be broke forever.
But this will live, okay, true.
If you think I'm broke forever, good for you.
Also, if you can't just discuss it now, why must we get to the...
These are
That's
family
it.
things. Yeah,
You guys are so embarrassing.
You guys are gonna wash dishes and marble in this moment.
Oh no, the dishes are jail, baby.
Okay.
If you don't pay at Marble or at Sentence,
It's done.
there's no washing dishes. They pay people for that.
Girl, I don't want
Of course. But thank you so much for being here. We're gonna wrap up. What is your last take? Fashion as a means of expression.
I just feel like, and I've always felt like, the universe gave me this, and it can only be translated through me. And yeah, nobody else can do it but me. So yeah, that's how I feel about fashion. It's something that I'm here to do, and until I do it and I fulfill it, nobody else can do it. Yeah.
So keep making and breaking until you.
Yeah, until I'm happy.
Nkuley?
So I really believe, honestly, I might be really mean to you on the internet. I might
Tweet them.
Yeah, and you know, and in everything that I say, I want you to always know, whoever you are watching this and looking at me in awe, that you can wear whatever you want. Honestly, life means nothing, gender means nothing, anything means anything. But I will still criticize your outfit, and that means that you shouldn't take it today.
It's everybody behind the camera rolling their eyes for me. Buhle, take it away.
For me, I think I'll just reiterate, my expression fashion-wise has never been a fashion statement, but just me, you know, just comfortability. So,
You're not an activist by being just who you are.
yeah, no, but unfortunately I'm hot, so it will draw attention sometimes. So it's a bit unfortunate, but it's life. That's all I have to say.
And from me, your host with the mostest, fashion will always be an expression, right? Because before I had the words to express that I was queer, fashion spoke for me. And so when I step out in the beach, remember, we may be friends on the internet, but you can never be as hot as me. Uncle! Thank you so much for watching episode 1 of Friends.
Basically what I was trying to say.
But you did it.
Yeah, so
The difference
sorry.
is, Kitty Suhowana, La Kalokanj.
Some people stumble into money.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Tune in then. Until then, I love you. And remember, bad bitch. Eat your rice cabbage. Head to toasters, you're the total package. Dango! Let's go.